Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the fourth edition of the Lawrence School Seminar Model United Nations 2021. It is a great honor for me to introduce and welcome our chief guest this morning, Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, PVSM and AVSM, an accomplished veteran army officer, writer, and a security expert. Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar retired from the Indian Army in 2004 after a most distinguished service spanning 4 decades. Sir, you have held coveted command, staff and instructional appointments both in India and abroad. For your distinguished services of the most exceptional order, you have been awarded the Param Vishisht and the Ati Vishisht Seva medals by the Government of India. The General Officer is the son of veteran freedom fighter and Indian National Congress leader, Dr. M.C. Dawar, a pacifist who had fought to prevent the partition of India. An alumnus of the National Defence Academy, Khadakwasla, Sir holds an MSc in Defence Studies from Madras University and a doctorate degree from Meerut. A renowned operational soldier, Sir has served in all theatres of operations in India and was wounded in action in the 1965 operations. With last appointment at the Army headquarters, Sir was specially selected by the Government of India as the first Chief of the Defence Intelligence Agency and Deputy Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff. During this tenure, many intelligence initiatives were taken and widely appreciated by the government and the three service headquarters. General Dawar has written regularly for the national media and military journals on security, counter-terrorism, and intelligence issues. Currently, Sir is also the convener of the Strategic Studies Cell, a think tank based in Kasauli. He has also been engaged in Track 2 diplomacy abroad and is a member of the International High-Level Military Group monitoring the situation in the Gaza Strip and Lebanon. As an environmentalist, Sir has promoted the successful campaign to plant lakhs of trees in Punjab and clean the Harike Bird Sanctuary in Punjab. Sir, you are also an active and leading member of SPOKE, the Society for the Prevention of Kasauli and its Environment, and was nominated as the President. Sir, you are an inspiration for many, as the accomplishments you have made are huge and motivation for all of us. So on behalf of one and all present here, I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. It is most evident that the pandemic has forced us to abruptly halt our lives and has brought us face to face with many challenges. One way to view such challenges is to give in and acknowledge the global desperation that is the present. However, another way and a better way is to not give in and stand resilient in the face of adversity. With this in mind, the theme of the conference this year is Non progredi est regredi, which is Latin for to not go forward is to go backwards. This encompasses the message that the pandemic has taught us, which is, by halting life, we are pushed back on the road of development. Thus, we must never stop moving and never give in. The Lawrence School Seminar Model United Nations is honored to announce its collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. UNODC's aim is to strengthen international cooperation in the areas of crime prevention and criminal justice. The network facilitates exchange of information, research, training, and public education. We are also proud to collaborate with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Challenge. The UN Refugee Agency is challenging Model United Nations delegates worldwide to debate the major issues related to forced displacement. SNAMUN21 is extremely honored to be taking part in this challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to inform that in the fourth edition of SNAMUN, we have delegations from 38 schools from India and the Middle East. The schools participating in this year's SNAMUN conference are Army Public School Dakshai, Bishop Cotton School Shimla, Bhavans Vidyalaya Chandigarh, the Delhi College Indore, Doon Public School Chandigarh, Delhi Public School Khanna, Delhi Public School Rajpura, Emerald Heights International School Indore, GEMS OOIS Dubai, Genesis Global School Noida, Hyderabad Public School Begumpet, the Hyderabad Public School Ramanthapur, Jayashree Periwar Global School Jaipur, Maharani Gayatri Devi Girls Public School Jaipur, Mayo College Ajmer, Mayo College Girls Ajmer, Mayur School Ajmer, Modern School Barakhamba, Manav Rachna International School 14 Faridabad, New Indian Model School Dubai, Pathway School Noida, Pine Grove School Sabatu, the Punjab Public School Nabha, Rajmata Krishna Kumari Public School Jaipur, Sanskriti School Delhi, St. M.R. Jaipuria School Lucknow, Shining Star International School Abu Dhabi, St. John's High School Chandigarh, St. Kabir Public School Chandigarh, the Doon School Dehradun, the Lawrence School Lovedale, the Millennium School Dubai, the Sri Ram Millennium School Noida, Unison World School Uttarakhand, Welham Boys School Dehradun, Yadvendra Public School Mohali, Yadvendra Public School Patiala, and the hosts, the Lawrence School Sanar. We also have individual registrations from Ryan International School Faridabad, Jodhamal Public School Jammu and Kashmir, Kulapati Munshi Bhavans Vidyalaya Mandir, Kerala, Holy Rock School, West Bengal. I now request in charge MUN, Mrs. Mona Gautam, to say a few words.
Good morning to all present here. I warmly welcome our Honorable Chief Guest, worthy Headmaster and faculty members. And so it begins. The Lawrence School Sanar Model United Nations is back. It's been 1 year and things have changed. No school auditoriums or classrooms anymore. Instead, a location just slightly fancier. A special welcome to tomorrow's leaders. I'm heartened to see such a large and enthusiastic group of young delegates from all schools coming together to find solutions to problems through constructive debate and an exchange of ideas. Young delegates, it is when your conference is over that the real work begins. With this experience, you become student ambassadors, charged with building a better understanding of the world issues. I wish you all the best and looking forward for a stimulating conference. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have the SNAMUN21 presentation to get a glimpse into the present human crisis and the need to foster harmony in the world today.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
U.S. cases of coronavirus more than doubling, with 2 new cases in Southern California and 1 in Maricopa County, Arizona. The CDC confirming all 5 patients in the U.S. had traveled to Wuhan, more than doubling.
In the next 48 hours.
With the growing emergency
is the biggest threat.
Listen.
I would now like to introduce the Honorable Executive Board members for this year's conference. We are honored and grateful to them for taking the time out from their busy schedules and joining us to facilitate this year's conference virtually. United Nations General Assembly, First Committee, Disarmament and International Security, discussing the agenda, the future course of disarmament with special emphasis on biological warfare. Chairperson, Ms. Lavisha Jindal, Vice Chairperson, Mr. Swapnil Mittal. United Nations Security Council, deliberating upon the agenda, aftermath of withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan and maintaining peace and security in the region. President, Mr. Prateek Saha, Vice President, Mr. Ishpreet Singh Luthra. World Health Organization, agenda, suggesting measures for fair and equitable allocation and access of vaccines for COVID-19. Chairperson, Ms. Ashima Jha. Vice Chairperson, Ms. Shanu Pathak. All India Political Party Meet, agenda, reassessing the current farmers' protest and suggesting measures for amicable solutions with special emphasis on the national interest and farm laws. Moderator, Ms. Meeru Madan. Deputy Moderator, Ms. Rishita Sood. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is convening to deliberate upon the measures to support the social inclusion of refugees. High Commissioner, Mr. Rahul Menon. Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Vaibhav Khanna. International Monetary Fund, agenda, reassessing the measures for post-pandemic economic recovery with special emphasis on current budget allocation structure. Managing Director, Mr. Arnav Bharadwaj. Research Associate, Mr. Ashnit Yadav. Cabinet of Mikhail Gorbachev convening to discuss the growing concern to the diminishing power of the Soviet with special emphasis on the geopolitical state of USSR. Chairperson, Mr. Manas Chandra Nair. Vice Chairperson, Mr. Om Gupta. United Nations Economic and Social Council, agenda, suggesting measures to eliminate challenges towards universal health care with special emphasis on global health system. President, Ms. Harshini Jain. Vice President, Ms. Asmita Sood. United Nations Human Rights Council is discussing the agenda, deteriorating situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. President, Ms. Garima Rajpal. Vice President, Ms. Nandini Singhal. And finally, United Nations Development Programme, discussing the challenges in sustainable goals with special emphasis on climate change. Administrator, Mr. Parth Kilotra. Deputy Administrator, Ms. Avni Goyal. It is an honor, ladies and gentlemen, for me to now introduce the Secretariat for SNAMUN21. Harshita Verma, the convener. Manik Ahluwalia, the Director General, and Simar Singh Gabaria, the Secretary General. I would like to request the Secretary General, Simar Singh Gabaria, to give his opening address.
A very good morning to all. It is an absolute honor for me to welcome you to the 4th edition of the Lawrence School Sinar Model United Nations Conference 2021. It is a privilege and a dream come true for me to address all of you as the Secretary General of SNAMUN21. I thank the Chief Guest, Lieutenant General Dawar, for gracing the occasion with his presence. I welcome Mr. Samarth Pathak, the keynote speaker for today. It is an honor to be hosting all of you. I feel proud to announce that SNAMUN21 is in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. SNAMUN21 is also proud to be participating in the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Refugee Challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, this platform and ceremony reflects growth in all aspects and different applicabilities. For me, it is a story of my personal growth. From joining the MUN club at Sanar in 2016 after acing a test on the United Nations to winning the Secretary General Best Delegate Award in SNAMUN 2019 and finally fitting into the role of the Secretary General. It has truly been a remarkable journey for me, which is impossible to put into words. SNAMUN too has seen growth. It has grown from an idea to the first edition in 2018 with just 125 delegates to this fourth edition with over 400 delegates and 38 participating schools, and this is just the beginning. The fact that we are having this ceremony in spite of being miles away from one another, undeterred and resilient in the face of a global pandemic, also reflects the progress of mankind to do things which were unimaginable only some years ago. While I believe that this growth and progress is the fundamental unit of human development, it was halted in more ways than one in this pandemic. But growth is never merely halted. It's like a fountain of water. The more the water, the higher the fountain goes. But as soon as you stop the water, the fountain comes down. Therefore, the interruption to growth leads to regression in development. The coronavirus pandemic has affected each one of our lives in different magnitudes, and we cannot even fathom the sufferings it has caused to millions of people around the world. Thus, we foster the theme non progredi et regredi, which is Latin for to not go forward is to go backward. And this theme comes with a message, ladies and gentlemen, which is exceedingly relevant in the scenario of a pandemic that we must never ever stop progressing forward. SNAMUN 21 is a step towards that progression. After this pushback, we must rejuvenate ourselves and be better than ever before. This pandemic needs to be seen as a necessary wake up call for humanity to see our mistakes and progress by rectifying them. This pandemic was a war against which we have all persevered in our own way. Napoleon Bonaparte had said victory belonged to the most persevering. Now that this war is coming to an end, we must persevere and emerge victorious. We need to step back on the roads of development and correct our mistakes of the past. We need to do something about the sufferings of people around the world. The cost of inaction is far, far greater than the cost of negative action. SNAMUN 21 aspires to be a platform for each one of you to put your perspective into action. Over the course of the 3 days, you shall be engaging in thought provoking debate and deliberating on pertinent crises that the world faces today, while developing important skills of diplomacy, public debate, and critical thinking. This conference shall be a step in your preparation for being informed future global citizens. In the end, I'd like to leave you with a lesson that we learned from this pandemic that we might face setbacks. Many obstacles may loom over us. Things may not go our way, and we may not always get what we want. But we must strive to grow. We must be better, and we must always keep progressing. Thank you, and I wish all the delegates the very best of luck.
Thank you, Simar. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker for the day. Based in New Delhi, Mr. Samarth Pathak is a public advocacy specialist with a keen interest in human rights, SDGs, and regional security. Mr. Pathak is currently associated with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, where Sir coordinates communications and public advocacy for South Asia, as well as youth-focused initiatives to promote peace and the rule of law as part of the Education for Justice global program. During COVID-19, he spearheaded the Lockdown Learners, a new initiative to strengthen youth engagement and action on peace, the rule of law, and SDGs through dialogue and activity-based learning. This also aims at empowering students and educators with limited internet access through WhatsApp, audio recordings, and interactive dialogue. Prior to UNODC, Mr. Pathak worked as a journalist with the Reuters TV, and subsequently moved to the policy advocacy space with strategic roles in the international think tanks. His experience encompasses policy analysis and advocacy, track 2 diplomacy, strategic communications, and news reporting and production. Mr. Pathak has been a regular writer for the Huffington Post, and his reports and op-eds have previously appeared in The Guardian, Medium, Reuters AlertNet, The Dawn, Hard News, and The Asian Age. Welcome, sir. I would like to request Mr. Pathak to address us all.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think this has become during the pandemic the favorite line of everyone. Am I audible? So, Honorable Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar sir, Headmaster Mr. Himmat Singh Dhillan, teachers, delegates, and my young friends. A very good morning to you all. I hope you and your loved ones have been safe and well during COVID-19. First and foremost, please continue to take all precautions and urge others to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Our battle with COVID continues, and we must take all precautions to keep us and our loved ones safe. My name is Samarth Pathak, and I head communications, advocacy, and a global program on education and youth at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, in South Asia. As some of you may know, UNODC is a special agency of the United Nations which focuses on issues that directly affect everyone. Drugs and organized crime, such as human trafficking, corruption, cybercrime, violent extremism and terrorism, and crimes against women and children, among others. Our mission is to make the world safer, peaceful, inclusive, and healthier for everyone. But the best part about my work at the UN is to have the chance to connect with young people like you. Because we truly believe that you are our greatest support, our greatest ally, our greatest partner in creating a better world for everyone. And that is why, on behalf of UNODC, I am delighted to be a part of this very important and special SNA Model UN 2021, which UNODC is happy to support under our Education for Justice initiative. I am truly honored to join this session and thank Mr. Dhillan for the opportunity, Ms. Mona Gautam, Mr. Simar Singh Gabadia, and the organizing committee for convening all of us today. I call this Model UN special because of 3 reasons. One, because it is being held during and despite COVID-19, which is one of the most pressing global challenges that the world has ever seen. Two, because it marks the spirit of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is adaptability and unity for peace and partnership. And three, because it is a completely student-driven initiative, which is a need of the hour. And this is important, especially in the times that we live in. As we have seen over the last year, COVID-19 has disrupted life as we know it. Many have lost their lives and loved ones. Many have lost their jobs. Many have seen violence at home. For many, education has been affected. Many have not been able to access health services, basic health services. We have seen discrimination in society. Inequalities have been exposed. Gender-based discrimination and violence against women and children have been observed. There has been increasing crime, strife, and violations of human rights, among other things. But as countries build back from the devastating impact of effects of the pandemic, one thing is clear, that the world needs young people like you to take charge, speak up, and create solutions to the problems around them. Without your support and involvement, it is impossible to create a just and peaceful world. And there are 3 reasons for this. First, because you are directly impacted by the issues that we discussed, that the world is facing today. You are one of the last generations on which the world's future hangs. The situation is so serious that if you fail to act, the future will be in trouble. Secondly, because you're more energetic and enthusiastic than the previous generations were, you have more innovative minds, you are far more tech savvy and innovative in your thinking. And thirdly, because your voice and action matter. They matter to government, they matter to businesses, they matter to communities, they matter to civil society, and you can actually spark change with your voices, your ideas, and actions. And what better place to start this journey than through this model UN? So today, I have an appeal to all the delegates, all the participants of this NUM. Over the next many sessions, you will be engaging in heavy duty dialogue. You will be applying your skills in diplomacy, in debate, in discussions on a variety of issues and topics of concern. You will be drafting resolutions and notes. However, your participation in this NUN will be truly impactful if you can also come up with actionable, innovative solutions and ideas to solve the problems that you are discussing, and then also formulate plans of executing them. This MUN should be a forum of action in this pandemic and a base from where you can create problem-solving networks with other young people that you are meeting. Remember, all it takes to bring change is intent, ideas, innovation, and implementation. And the time to do this is now. Because when it comes to the sustainable development goals, when it comes to solving problems facing the world today, when it comes to peace, the theme for this model UN is act. Non progredi est regredi. To not go forward is to go backward. Doing this is simple. All you have to do is use your own skills, your talents, your knowledge, whatever you have. For example, if you're good at anything, be it filmmaking, arts, writing, speaking, sports, social entrepreneurship, anything, you can use it to make a difference. Make videos and films to create awareness. Create music on social themes. Create fact-checking networks. Counter wrong information by verifying facts. Engage and learn about the SDGs. And create action networks to discuss and implement initiatives in your community. So if you're ready to be superheroes for the world, I offer to you UNODC's complete support and an action-oriented platform to our very special Education for Justice initiative and the Lockdown Learners series. We are ready to give you a platform of action, of engagement, of mentorship, through which you can freely discuss and create solutions for social challenges. And I'm confident that this model UN will emerge as a hub, not only for new ideas, but also for new solutions and inspire all of you to connect with the United Nations, UNODC in our mission. As I conclude, I want to leave you with a very inspiring story that one of my favorite professors in university used to share. It deeply inspired me as a young student. I loved it, and I thought you would too. Listen carefully. A fisherman was once caught in a very bad storm in the ocean. There were huge waves coming in from everywhere, crashing into his boat. The wind was very strong and he could not see anything. He lost his way, and sometime later he did not know where the coast was. He was completely lost in the ocean. Soon came the night and it became very dark. He was very scared and he thought that he would not live. But he did not lose hope. He kept looking and trying, and in some time he saw a very faint flicker of light at a great distance, just a flicker of light. It was the only light in the darkness. So he changed the direction of his boat and he started moving towards that light. After many hours, he was at the coast and survived, but lost his consciousness. When he recovered, he realized that the light was coming from a broken down lighthouse run by a brother-sister duo, a pair of siblings. So he thanked them and he said that it is only because of you that I'm living. Thank you so much for getting this light on in this lighthouse, and thank you so much. So the sister said that I'm very happy for you. My brother and I live very far away from here, but every night during a storm, we come to this lighthouse to make it work because we know somebody out there needs to see this light to make it true. As we emerge from the shadows of COVID-19, I request all of you to be that shining light from the lighthouse for those in need. Never forget that every act of yours counts. You are all stars this time to shine, to go light the world. And UNODC always stands with you in this direction. Stay engaged with us, work with us to promote peace, health, SDGs, and justice in the world. I wish all of you great success in your efforts and look forward to the collective efforts you do in this module UN. Thank you very much.
From the depth of our hearts, we thank Mr. Samarth Pathak for all words of wisdom that radiated a source of energy within us. I now invite our worthy chief guest, Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, to address us all.
Headmaster Lawrence School Sanar, Mr. Himmat Dhillon, Mr. Samarth Pathak, Mrs. Mona Gautam, Ms. Solomon, teachers and students of the schools participating in MUN21. At the outset, Independence Day greetings to you all, especially our students' fraternity, who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow's India, and equally, I'm sanguine, global citizens who will make both India and the world a far more peaceful, safer, and prosperous place to live in. I'm glad to be a part of the 4th edition of the Lawrence School Sanar Virtual Model UN Conference MUN 2021, which provides a forum to young minds to deliberate upon the critical issues the world is facing today, and not only discuss these, but do our humble bit to address these problems. The agenda chosen and the subjects you all are going to discuss upon are indeed very topical and relevant in today's troubled world. My compliments to the Headmaster Lawrence School Sanar and his team for organizing these very useful and timely deliberations. I must say that I've been greatly impressed so far with the young organizers of MUN21. My congratulations to each one of you. Now, the keynote speaker, Mr. Pathak, and the organizers have touched upon certain relevant aspects of the United Nations and its endeavors since the UN came into being in 1945. Now, without repeating the basic charter or going over an historical overview of the United Nations, which you're all familiar with, time only permits me to touch upon various facets as regards the United Nations and how can member nations collectively support it to enable the United Nations becoming additionally a much more effective global body to harmonize the world and confront the many diverse challenges it confronts. At the outset, let me add that there is no alternative to the sole major global organization, the United Nations, and the agencies it overlooks. There is no alternative to this global body. First of all, let us all understand and appreciate that in this highly interconnected and super technologically driven world, most so-called local issues have a distinct regional and a global impact. No nation can be an island any longer. Thus, global or regional problems require global solutions. Somewhere, thus, nations have to keep their own national interests within the ambit of regional or global constraints and solutions. Afghanistan is the best example today of what I am trying to say. I'm glad you're discussing Afghanistan, which I saw in the agenda. And I've written at least, just to sound personal, at least 25 published articles on Afghanistan in the last 10 years or so. And even now have been pleading since some months, if I can use this word, for a regional consensus among India, Russia, Iran, the Central Asian republics. China, Pakistan, and even Turkey, of course, are following their own mischievous policies, their machinations, which will bring ruin to Afghanistan. Now look at the humanitarian problems Afghanistan is facing. Let's hope the United Nations, which I'm given to understand on Monday, that is today, they're having an emergency meeting of their Security Council. Let's hope they can arrive at some way to help poor, hapless Afghanistan. Now, the second point I wish to make is that as regards the United Nations, it must be given by all member nations. Now, as most of you would know, there are 193 countries now that are its members. All these countries must give the United Nations far more respect, and the more powerful nations could use sanctions against errant states. But there has to be that fairness, that elusive fairness in dealing with other nations by larger nations. Thirdly, and most important, I'm afraid the United Nations is not truly representative of the world in its prime decision-making body, namely the United Nations Security Council. You cannot have a mere 5 nations using their veto power to pursue their own selfish national agendas. It is high time that geographically large, economically and militarily strong nations like India, Japan, Germany, and Brazil should also be part of the Security Council. I'm sure you will debate on this aspect, and your resolutions will voice this concern of people who have been left out for all the wrong reasons. Fourthly, the United Nations must be able to address global challenges far more effectively than heretofore. Take the United Nations efforts to manage the current COVID pandemic. I'm sorry, the overall management has been well below par. Thus, an architecture with adequate, willing, cooperative, global participation has to be strived for. It can be done so that the poor and smaller nations can survive these global crises. Human rights violations are rampant all over the globe. They also need to be looked at by the United Nations. Fifthly, and importantly, how do you resolve conflicts between nations and neighbors? How do you resolve the growing problem, the widespread growth of nuclear weapons, etc.? Even nukes in diverse forms are now within reach of non-state actors. Aren't we facing a global challenge? Now, most non-state actors, I'm afraid, have the support of certain rogue nations. So they're not non-state actors. They're actually state actors by proxy. Cyber warfare, biological warfare. Now, these challenges have to be seriously looked at by the global community because they impact the entire globe. As I mentioned, you're not an island. You may be thousands of miles away, but you're under threat. You are under threat. Sixthly, why cannot, and importantly, the United Nations collectively address the growing menace of religion-based terrorism? I'm afraid the bigger powers in the world have to get down to unitedly address this menace. Otherwise, I'm afraid the world is doomed. Somewhere, mere national interests have to be made a part and parcel of the regional and global solutions to such challenges. It's a pity that even to very grave and global and globe-threatening challenges like global warming, degradation of the environment, the world has not been able to address it collectively and arrive at a consensus. What's so difficult about it? Nothing. Really speaking, nothing. Now let's work towards the goal that in the years to come, the United Nations will prove to be an effective instrument to ensure adherence to human values, peace, sanity, and prosperity for the world to survive. I would like to once again repeat that the United Nations Security Council must reflect ground realities of today, and thus major reforms in its membership, both permanent and non-permanent, are called for, and these must be addressed urgently. Thank you, Mr. Dillon, for giving me the opportunity and a few minutes to share my thoughts as regards the United Nations. Let there be a universal movement among the youth to drill some sense into those who govern us. I'm sure the invincible spirit of the youth power can do tremendously for the benefit of mankind. And I must end by quoting Mahatma Gandhi's famous words to you young people. Be the change you wish to be. Be the change you wish to be. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. I now request our worthy headmaster, Mr. Himmat Singh Dhillon, to address us all.
Warm greetings from Sana. Thank you very much, General Kamal Davar, our chief guest, for your wonderful address. And yes, I'm sure our youth will be the change and make this a better world. A big thank you goes out to Mr. Samarth Pathak from UNODC, our guest of honor, for your highly inspiring and most actionable address to us earlier this morning. Today, we are truly honored to welcome our delegates from nearly 40 schools from many parts of our great nation and the world. I would like to thank every head of school, every principal, every staff member who had a role in enabling these young people to attend the SNAMUN. Thanks to your sterling stewardship of education, we have a new generation that is ready to lead on things that need to be done in the world. Truly, this pandemic, COVID-19, which could have derailed events, has actually made this a stronger MUN because it has gone virtual. And thank you, students. Thank you all those who made this happen. Truly, in this adverse situation, we have found a new opportunity for many more young people to take part, to ideate, and to speak their mind so that their voices can be heard and the world is listening. Thank you for that. I would like to thank our worthy chief guest, General Davar, for sparing his time and gracing this occasion with his wonderful, inspirational personality and, of course, the wonderful address that he just shared with us. A special thank you and great gratitude goes out to our keynote speaker, Mr. Samarth Pathak, for sparing your time, for being here and for inspiring us. I would like to thank all those who formed the core team to make this MUN a reality. A big thank you goes out to our students who've led this, Ms. Solomon and Mrs. Gautam, for putting things in place. I would like to say thank you to members of the executive board for aiding us in this wonderful event. and all those who have supported us and spared the time to be there for young people in these challenging times. Delegates, this event is about you. It is expected that there will be cerebral and civil sessions. There'll be brainstorming with dignity, with respect, and deliberations related to all the issues which concern our global community. Delegates, I would like to emphasize the role and the relevance of the UNO in these present times where everything is dynamic and volatile, and let us together make sure that whatever decisions are taken at this conference, these are for the benefit of all humanity. I'm very pleased to note that the agendas chosen by the SNAMUN are most pertinent and are closely based on contemporary geopolitical and socio-economic circumstances, including events that are unfolding in real time. And I'm most hopeful that the debates and the deliberations will lead towards finding amicable solutions to the world problems that we are currently challenged by. I would like to emphasize that this is not merely a theoretical exercise. Young people today are taking charge, and I would like to share a concrete example of that. The Lawrence School Sana is very pleased to share that we have been collaborating with the UNODC Education for Justice Initiative for the last 2 years. Young people from the school have worked towards promoting peace, the rule of law, and the sustainable development goals. Our students and our staff are enthusiastically participating in the Lockdown Learner Series and receiving mentorship and knowledge support so that they can use their skills to promote awareness about these issues, so that they can create initiatives and find solutions. Mr. Pathak, who is all too modest, has just been awarded a wonderful recognition for his work. And part of why we are so happy today is because he is helping us to make sure that our students become exemplary citizens of tomorrow. And when the students voiced what they had in their minds, the feedback from the organizers, from the UNODC, from the powers that be, was most positive. And the children are empowered by this. Thank you. The UNODC and our school do believe that this MUN is a great opportunity for young minds to learn and effectively engaged with the issues that society is facing today. Let us together sustain and work towards making this world a better place and a kinder place. A big thank you to all our delegates. A special Alan Wasalan to our delegates from the Middle East. Thank you. God bless. Let's make this world better today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Finally, I request the Secretary General to declare the 4th Lawrence School Sonar Model United Nations 2021 open.
By virtue of the power vested in me as the Secretary General, I now declare the 4th Lawrence School Sonar Model United Nations Conference 2021 open.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of the opening ceremony and the start of 3 days of intense debating and deliberation. All delegates are requested to join their committee meeting rooms for the committee session. We once again thank our worthy chief guest for taking out time from his busy schedule and gracing us with his virtual presence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much and all the best.